My name is Tim Kraft. I am from Beckley, West Virginia originally, but now live in Little Hocking, Ohio. And I have been in recovery since March the 1st of 2014, so a little over 9 years. Yeah.
Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. If you could start off by sharing a bit about your childhood.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up, and my dad was a coal miner, and so my mom was like a stay-at-home mom. And so culturally, that was pretty much the norm of just how, it was where I grew up. And so grew up, normal childhood, no trauma, great parents. They're a little bit crazy, but other than that, we were good. And so I played sports. I never did drugs in school. I actually made pretty good grades. I played basketball, football, baseball, and then so my childhood is some of the greatest memories of my life. I will say that.
And when did you start experimenting with anything, and what did it do for you?
Yeah, so I went to college at Concord University, and when I went there, I began partying. I was going out to clubs and started doing like cocaine and ecstasy. Ecstasy was the introduction thing, and then I was just knew I was wasting my time there, and so I wasn't addicted to anything. I was partying, but I wasn't like a habitual user. And so I went back home, and I was throwing up because I had migraines, and I went to they referred me, and I knew it. Listen, I knew where I was going, what they did, so I'm not putting blame on anybody, but I got referred to this doctor and got prescribed a large amount of, starting off, it was hydrocodone, and then, you move up to oxycodone. And so that's kind of how my addiction started. And then I was taking them by mouth, and I ran out, and it was terrible. I was really sick, and I knew then I'm in trouble.
And what year was that? Do you remember about?
Oh, that would have been in about 2002 or 3. Yeah.
Okay. And then at any point did you get prescribed Oxycontin?
Yeah, I did.
And from the doctors, did they give you any health warnings, anything whatsoever?
No. I was prescribed it. I wasn't sure exactly how addictive it was. Like, I knew, I liked hydrocodone. I knew I liked Percocet. But once Oxycontin came into my life, it literally robbed everything quickly.
So can you talk a bit about the progression of your disease and how it impacted your family, friends, employment? Yeah,
so for many, for a couple years, let me not say many, I was working in the coal mines at this point, on strip mines, like above ground, and heavy equipment. And I was trying so hard to like maintain the addiction. You know how that goes. I was, there would be seasons where I had started dating this girl at one point. She was from a place called Oceana, West Virginia, they did a documentary called Oceana on this place. And I remember the first time that she shot up, and it's crazy how you try to justify. You're like, if I don't shoot up, I'm not as bad as those drug addicts over there. And I saw her shoot up, and I was on at this point like snorting it, and it just looked like, I was like, wow, that looks like every problem just left. And so I tried it for the first time, and I was instantly captivated by it, which is something that I've learned is, my personality is just so in. Whatever I do, I'm all in. And so it wasn't halfway, and then I went all in. So I had got laid off from the mines by this point, and then there would be seasons where I would try to do like Suboxone, or I would try to just, like I went to detox one time, tried to white knuckle it, but I couldn't do it in my own power. And that's where I was messing up. So the thing that really shook me to my core was my sister passed away on April the 6th of 2013. My dad and I got a call that day, and my cousin was like, can't wake Brandy up, and they were at my brother's house, my mom and my sister and my niece, and my niece is Angel. She was 5 years old. And I remember driving there with like this sobering thought of, how did we get here? And we pulled up, and there was 2 cop cars and 2 ambulances, and I jumped out and I ran in the house, and my mom and Angel were standing on the porch, and I opened the door, and I saw my sister laying on the floor, and she was dead. And I thought to myself, like, how did, like, this was, it started out as something that you felt like was like a release, or like, you're getting away from the heaviness of whatever you're going through. And then this moment is like, and in my mind, because I'm addicted, I can't think of anything but how can I like cover this feeling up? I don't want to feel this. And so over those next 10 months, I was just staying place to place, just doing things like, stealing, just taking stuff that wasn't mine, shady stuff. And I knew that's not who I am. And there would be these moments of like clarity just for a moment, and I would be like, this is not me, and I just couldn't do nothing about it. And so on after that, I would look at my niece Angel, and I would feel guilty every time I looked at her, because I thought to myself, I played a part in this. I helped her become as addicted as she was. She overdosed on Xanax and Opana, and I played a part in that. And so I had this overwhelming guilt every time. And I just in February of 2014, I got my income tax that year, and I went to this little motel room in Beckley that you like buy by the week. And when I went in there, I had went and got like 10 Roxy 30s and like 19 stamps of heroin. And I know subconsciously I probably went there to die. I didn't intentionally go there to die, but like I look back now and I'm like, wow, what a setup, I didn't have to go somewhere where I was alone, but it just pulled me away, and it was just trying to isolate me. And so I was sitting in this hotel room just trying to shoot my pain away. And that night, the second night I was there, I the same thing that happened to my sister. And I've thought about this moment so much in my life, because here I am, breathing, alive with the chance at life. And at this point in my life, I didn't have no kids or a wife yet. And so I was really guilty about even being alive at first, but I threw up, and my body rejected all the drugs I did. And so because I fell asleep sitting like I'm sitting right now is the only reason I'm alive. So my friend came and rescued me out of this hotel room, the same one I was in. He kind of snuck his way in and was like, he knocked on the door. I was like, who is it? He's like, his finger over the peephole. He's like, J-Rock. I thought somebody used to buy dope from. So I opened the door, and it wasn't. It was a guy named Jared Pugh. And so he had went into a ministry called Eddie James Ministries. They had a program called Dreamlife. And so he talked me into leaving this hotel room. And I left Beckley, West Virginia, and I went to Atlanta, Georgia, and I didn't want to go. And I was trying to think of every excuse not to go. And I even tried to, I formed my own program. It's a 1-year program. I was like, I'll go for 6 months. And then they're like, I don't care, just go, get out of here. And I went, and I just watched, I just sat back and watched for a minute, because I had this encounter with God, March the 1st, 2014. I was going through withdrawals after I left that hotel room, and I prayed, and I think sincerely, maybe for the first time. And I felt such a peace. Like, even in the midst of what should have been the most terrible withdrawals I've ever been through in my life, I had peace. And it didn't make sense, but I knew there was something like I was missing. And then later I would find out it was God. But I go into this ministry, very unique experience for recovery. We didn't do 12 steps. We didn't do AA, NA, nothing like that. We did the Word. And I was taught a spiritual principle by now, who is my spiritual father, Eddie James, amazing Christian music artist, actually. And he travels. I've been across America with him, and it was this unique experience, I believe, that shaped me into who I am today, because I got to see a lot. And I got to go to Israel, Germany, all across Miami, California, and all these different cultures, all these different places, all these places where one problem still existed in every single one of those places, and it was drug addiction. So it began to just like broaden my horizons. I began to believe, because Eddie James is a very empowering man. So he would speak things, like, this is who you are. You're not your past. You are a child of God. You're not what you suffer with. And so like there would be these truths that I had to break the lies out of my life and step into the truth. And he said that in order to be successful in life, you need to be spiritually mature. And spiritual maturity is the consistent application of 3 elementary things. And those things are prayer, word, and worship. That's my recovery. And it's always been my recovery for 9 years now. And so I dove into that head first, because like I said earlier, I can't do anything halfway. It's like all in. I can't even play PlayStation because I can't stop playing it. So it's just the way God made me. And I know it's a gift, and when used correctly, it's a very powerful gift, but used incorrectly, it can get you in trouble. So I was discipled by him. And so eventually I became the director of that same program. And we moved from Atlanta, Georgia. There was somebody he hired from Parkersburg, West Virginia, where we're at now. I'm not from Parkersburg, West Virginia, but that's where I exist now, and our church is and all that. But so we moved here in 2015. August the 15th of 2015. I'll never forget it. And after being here about a week, I knew it was hard to explain. Never being here before, I knew this was going to be my home. I felt it. And so we started Dreamlife here. I've been in Parkersburg now for 8 years, and I just look back and I'm just amazed by, like, what God has done. I met my beautiful wife here. Never knew back when God was working all these things out of my heart, He was preparing me to be a husband and a father, and 2 beautiful little boys, Cash and Remy. And so I think, like, that I began to see that I did have value, and I was worthy, and I did have a purpose, and God did have a plan for my life. And when I began to believe that about myself, I seen doors open. And so it started with High on Hope, and it built some confidence, and then it was the Reach United, which is our church. And then a year ago, my wife and I opened Angels Harbor, which is a Ohio Medicaid faith-based treatment center, faith-driven. I like that word much better. But faith-driven treatment center, and we are growing quickly. And I feel like that because I don't know, I'm just big on, like, I know what helped me, and I know everybody has different paths. I know everybody has different ways that they get to sobriety, but I just really stand firm on the truth that set me free after trying everything I knew and nothing working. So that's kind of the journey that led me to this moment. Yeah.
So you've already done so much and have started to help so many people. What dreams do you have, both personally and professionally, for your life?
I do have some.
Excellent.
I have big vision. I do. I feel like God gave me a really big vision that I truly believe is going to happen. I believe we're going to have multiple campuses of our church. I feel like we're creating a model. This model is effective. This model is not, because see, okay, let me say this too. Religious systems are not good. Religion is not a good thing, but Jesus is. And whenever it's like not presented in that religious way, I feel like people receive it much better than you would anticipate. Because someone told me once, you have a niche market when you have a faith-based treatments in there, and I was like, well, I venture to disagree with that, because people just don't know their need for God. And when you can not force it down their throat, but allow God to show them, you'll see much better results. And so that's kind of our approach. So I feel like we're going to have, we're working on treatment center number 2 and 3 and expanding our outpatient program. I want to have these all throughout Ohio and all through West Virginia. We're also working on that. So my vision is to be able to provide the whole continuum of care, from detox all the way to transitional living, and not only that, but education and job placement, to be able to see how do you see the whole spectrum of care and be able to provide it. Well, the church plays a crucial role in that too, because there's people in the church that's going to be mothers and fathers to people that's never had one before. And then, once they graduate your residential and go into your transitional, you have amazing services that continue to grow them and mold them into who God made them to be. And I really believe that it's not just, number one, I know it's not a business, because it's in honor of my sister who passed away. That was the vision of it. I have a high school diploma, so it had to be God that got us here. I don't even know how I don't even know. And so it don't make sense, but I know that if He brought us this far, it's just, I believe Him for more.
Beautiful. Is there anything that we missed that you would like to share?
Gosh, I don't think so. I would say, one last thing I would say, if someone's struggling, they're going through a hard time right now, and they feel alone, I do know that feeling, and I know how isolated you can feel even if you're in a room of people. And so I would just say that regardless of your feelings, you're not alone. There's people that are available to help you. There's people that's been through what you are going through, and you don't have to suffer alone. And I know it feels like you do, but you don't. And so there is, no matter what your condition is, there's somebody who will come and help you out of it if you'll just put your hand up. So I would say just reach out for help if you need it. You will get connected to the right people, and you will have an amazing journey through freedom that will change everything in your life.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for taking time out of this spectacular day to share your story.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely. I'm honored. Thank you for having me.